There are plenty of machine learning algorithms that can be applied to solve a myriad of problems. Now, these machine learning algorithms will be applied on data. The data is also enormous. As you know, the data is exploding and we have plenty of varieties of data. So, we can classify these machine learning problems which can be applied on myriad of data into two different ways. One is the classification of the machine learning algorithms that can be supervised learning or unsupervised learning. This is on the algorithms. The second set of problems, second way in which the problems can be classified is based on the type of data. It can be structured data, it can be unstructured data. So let's start with the supervised machine learning algorithms. What are supervised machine learning algorithms? Supervised machine learning algorithms are those where we have the target data, that is the data, the value that you want to predict. In a simple example where you want to predict the time it takes for you to reach your office. If you want to predict that, you know what is the value you want to predict. That is the time it takes for you to reach the office. Right? That is called supervised. The other example could be the stock market price prediction. Because you know what is the value that you want to predict, and this is a value that is already present in your data from the past history of data. So this data is the labeled data. The columns are all labeled. At the same time, you're crystal clear with what is the value that you're going to predict. That is called supervised learning. The second is the unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning is where you actually understand the patterns in the data. The data will be explored in machine learning and you also visualize and then understand the patterns of the data. And then from this data, you try to actually use the data insights to your business. So it can be in the form of market basket analysis, it can be in the form of recommendation systems, or it can even in the form of clustering. One classic example is the market basket analysis or the recommendation system. Whichever e-commerce site you go, you would have seen a pop-up popping up saying, would you like to buy this item too? Many of the people who bought this item, the item that you are browsing, would have preferred to buy some other item. So there is a pop-up that comes up which says, maybe you would also like to buy this item. It is not that, it is not just taking the people who bought this item, but it's also understanding your buying pattern. So understanding the buying pattern, there is no hard and fast rule here saying that if you have spent so much time on this item, you are going to buy this. Nothing like that. There is no rule that you are going to define, but the algorithm underneath is understanding your buying pattern and it is generating rules. That is the reason it's called as recommendation systems, where there is an a priori algorithm where rules are built and generated. Now, this is unsupervised. As I said, in unsupervised, there is no target value. That is, the target value is not labeled in the data that is given. In the case of time it takes for you to reach your office, you already have a column called time in the data that is given. Suppose you have taken a CSV file or an Excel sheet. In the data that is given to you, there is a time column already present. And for the new data that comes, you are going to predict this time column. So that is supervised. While in the case of unsupervised, there is no column which specifies what are the other items this lady is going to buy. Right? It is only the machine learning algorithm that is actually applied on the data is able to predict it. So this comes as an unsupervised. Two different learning algorithms. One is supervised and the second is unsupervised. Now let's come to the data. There are two types of data. One is the structured data, the other is the unstructured data. As the name says, structured data is where the data is properly structured. What is structured data? The first thing we think about is the databases, or Excel sheets or the CSV files, right? But the data is structured, CSV file or an Excel sheet. How is the data? The data is in the form of columns, where the column name is there and the values are there underneath, right? There are multiple columns and the data is there underneath. That is called structured data. What is DBMS data? That is the data that you get from the database. The database has many columns. Let's take the example of employees data. The name of the employee, the first name, the surname, the last name, the date he has joined the company, maybe the salary, and probably other details, the experience. So every data item has a name, the column name, which is saved in the database, and the data is retrieved. That is all structured. Any new person, rather even a layman, if he sees a CSV file or the data that is generated in a database, he can understand it. That is called structured data. But now let's come to the second one, that is unstructured data. What is unstructured data? The name says what it is. There is no structure to the data. Is there any structure in the data of an email? What is it? How do you write email? It's all in the form of plain text. So there is no structure to it. Example, the classical example of an unstructured data is the email data. The other examples could be the data that is generated on your tweets, the Twitter data, the only tweet data. I'm not talking about the Twitter ID and other stuff. The data that you put on the Facebook, put so many Facebook feeds, right? All these are unstructured data. The data that comes from the movies that you see or the songs that you listen to. All these are voice files or the video file. This data is all unstructured. There is no structure to it, no pattern. The data that is generated with the traffic signals, this is also not structured at all. It's all unstructured data. And now, when we apply machine learning algorithms on this unstructured data, there are two types, because we already have supervised machine learning algorithms and unsupervised. So again, there can be two classes. Unstructured, we can apply supervised machine learning algorithms. We can even apply unsupervised on the unstructured data. So this is a 2x2 matrix. This is a standard way we handle it in business, right? We convert everything into a 2x2 matrix to understand the intricacies of the problems, right? This is one of the examples, one of the ways we have structured the data and algorithms in machine learning.